Hey, welcome back to another exciting edition of In the Chute, where something is poised at me. The gate comes open in the form of a question comes out, and I try to answer it. Maybe, maybe not. What do you got, Galen?
Nutrition is a very important thing for humans. It's also an important thing for animals. They don't just eat grass and hay, and they do, but there's also other stuff that we talk about, and there's other stuff that we provide to them, and so on and so forth. We also have goodies, whether it's cow cake or it's just regular grain to the horses, and all those things. What is the importance of overall nutrition to the horses and the cows for us, and how do we go about doing that on the ranch?
Oh God. I mean, the importance of it, if it wasn't important, you wouldn't have people with degrees in nutrition in
Yeah,
animal science.
animal
I
nutrition,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and a lot of times even veterinarians rely on nutritionists. So that's tells you how important it is. I mean, how is it that it's a multi-billion dollar industry just in human terms? So
Well,
that's
and I
more
can't
for
help
health
but
benefits.
think that that's what helps us as Americans produce such quality beef for the rest of the world anyway. I mean, I think I heard something recently where we have somewhere around 18% of all producers for beef in the world, and we produce closer to like 36% of the beef for the world. So we only have 18% of the cattle, but we produce 36% of the overall beef.
Yeah.
If that's accurate, it wouldn't surprise me, but I would imagine a lot of that has to come from nutrition, being able to put on weight, make sure the animals are healthy, and so on and so forth.
Well, but it is, but we got a lot. We put a lot into genetics as well. I mean, we've.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, and this is just my take on this. This is no scientific background whatsoever. But I think because we have somewhat larger herds and lots of producers with larger herds than, say, our European counterparts, we have a lot better ability to um, get heterosis or spread our genetics
Mm, mhm.
and mix our genetics better. Um, just my take on that. I never picked that up in a any kind of a journal or any kind of study that was done on that. It's just what an overall picture that I get when you look at the size of herds, the differences in herds, the differences in breeds. Not that there aren't a lot of different breeds in Europe as well, because I mentioned them specifically. There are, um, but we all tend to kind of rabbit hole down a certain line. We'll have a say black cattle or a red cattle, and you stick with those. Well, you got to watch your bloodlines. You got to watch your genetics. You got to make sure that you have got a large diversity in what is going on, so that you get better and better genetics out of that. So, genetics is part of the success of our nutrition. Now, you can have the best genetics in the world, but if you're missing nutrition in that, it's not going to do you a bit of good. You're going to have cattle that are underweight, undersized, not healthy, or not necessarily thriving like they should. So, um, you try to push that nutrition any way you can, and there are a lot of supplement type companies that say, "Oh, here we're going to give you this. This is going to be our cure all for everything." And I'm not entirely sure that that's the way to go. Um, I think look at your cattle and see how they do. That's
Yeah.
really your best tell. What's the end in this? And by no means am I an expert in that, because I'd lie to you if I said I was. But look at what your end product is. Look how thrifty your cattle are. Look how your offspring out of those cattle are. Is this something that's repeatable? Have you changed your nutrition? And we did that one year. I went with a mineral that was told to me that these folks really liked it, good friends of ours. And I went with that mineral because it was an all natural mineral. And our cows that summer, their their body score tanked. And it was really a very good test, because the year before was similar in our grasses and our rainfall. The year after was similar in our grasses and rainfall. And I went back to the type of mineral program we had been doing, and those cattle picked right back up. So that told me that there was a deficiency somewhere in that mineral that we were using, because everything else was the same. Um, one of the things we do is I'm not specific about what I necessarily give out either. I will give them a shotgun approach as to what they want to chew on. For instance, our salt. Everything needs a salt supplement. Salt's a pretty important uh, mineral, and so I give them the salts with trace minerals in it. I'll give them block salt with sulfur in it, with cobalt, and I'll just spread those around in the same area where we do our general or our normal iodized salt with our mineral. And I do different blends, whether there's green grass, whether there's cured grass, then I'll change that mineral up. And I let them choose what they want. And it's funny to watch some of these salt blocks get hit. Sometimes they'll really work on that cobalt very strong. And the next time they'll hit the sulfur, or different times of year, they'll hit one and not the other, according to whatever they're craving. And so I want to give them as much as I can possibly give them so it's available to them. The availability is a big deal. If it's not available and they can't have it, what good is it going to do if it's stuck in a storage area somewhere? So I put it out. I give it to them. Let them have it. Let them choose what they want. Free choice. And I think overall we do pretty darn well with that. Our cattle usually look pretty good. We get good compliments on them. So um, we have in the past gone with the cheapest mineral you can get, just because of, hey, every dollar we don't spend is a dollar we're not spending, right? Or we keep to try to live another day. But I don't think that's the answer either, because I have used some of those cheaper minerals and not got the body score on these cattle like when you use a good quality um, mineral and leave that in the program as much as they want of it, and then keep tabs on it, how much they're using, what they're using, when. And then one of the things we also do with it, like in the springtime, spring summer, during green grass time, and the flies are really coming on, as I use that product that is a basically it's a not a repellent, but it kills the fly larva, and so it reduces the amount of like horn flies, um, biting, sucking flies that take up blood. And when you're taking blood outside the body, you got to make it up somehow, and that's energy spent on doing just that. And it's surprising how much flies will take off of a cow, calf, bulls. They suck a lot of blood out of them. So trying to also put that in that mineral really helps, I think, and has that cow or calf producing more weight and maintaining that weight than it would if they're trying to just maintain a body.
Well, and I can't help to think, but that the fact that we use as best nutrition as we can, and knowing, watching the things that you talked about. We had 3 years in a row that were similar. You had them on one feed or one mineral, took them off to a different one, and then returned back to the original mineral in that time frame, and you saw the dip and return back
Yeah.
to their health. I can't help but think, knowing, staying in line with seeing what their well-being is like, how well they're performing, how well they're growing, things like that, that it doesn't, in a sense, it might be a little more expensive in terms of mineral and in terms of nutrition, but you're saving in terms of veterinary costs, because it's the same as a human being. If you're going to work out, eat right, you're probably not going to be going to the doctor as often as somebody who's, diabetic, or,
Right.
they've got cardiological diseases or something like that. Like, to me, it makes sense that it's a little bit of that upfront cost, that you're going to get higher performance, better health in general of your herd. If you do start having unhealthy animals, you're going to know right away, okay, it's probably not because of what we're doing. There's something going on. It's either a disease is coming through, uh, they've been introduced to something that we were not aware of, or there's just something there that we need to look at that's not this. And so to me, it just makes more sense that having a good nutritional balance helps us to also kind of offset other costs and other factors
Right.
as well in the growing process.
Well, and part of that isn't just a long term with it when you're looking at a health aspect, because most of the time our animals are pretty healthy. We seldom
Yeah.
have to have an issue or any kind of a solution with something that's not healthy. But what you have to look at in the shorter term is, yeah, I can save $2 or $3 on a bag of, or $5 on a bag of mineral. But what am I gaining on the weight gain on these calves? And
Mm,
that's really, to me, that's really, want to look at the cow. How does she look? Some cows are different than the one standing next to them, and they will put more of their body into that calf to produce a good, healthy calf, and it shows on them. You'll have another cow that it she has the same looking calf as the one that's really depleted her body, but she's looking good. That's the cow you want to keep, because she is lower maintenance. She's not losing body weight. She's not fluctuating. And, hopefully this time of year, she's got a calf in her as well, so that she's got to
mhm.
provide for not just one that's on the ground, but one that is growing inside that uterus. But um, skimping on that mineral on a program like that, saving yourself, a five, $600,000 in a year, what are you going to gain back? How many pounds does a calf have to lose off of that to where that hasn't paid for itself, where it
Right.
could have gotten with a decent program? But um, and there's a lot of minerals that I don't care for. I don't care for some of the ingredients that go into them, and even the ones we get. I don't think you can really get anything all natural. I mean, we're using um, a lot of uh, waste materials in some industries that are going into that because it has some kind of minerals in it. Not really wild about it, but it is what it is. So you get the best ones that you can get without, God, you don't want to poison your animals, but
Yeah.
you don't want to fool yourself either. That we had some friends that kind of got into cattle late in life. He was an engineer, she was a nurse, and her folks had the place. They retired and moved on to the place without working it ever. Prior to that, only when she was young, and they were asking me. They said, "Boy, our cows are. We don't need any mineral. They're getting all the mineral they need out of eating greasewood." And I'm like, uh, "I think you got that backwards, And these are intelligent people, but they're kind of not seeing the chicken and egg thing. It's like,
Yeah.
the reason they're eating that greasewood is they're looking for something. They need some mineral. They
Yeah.
need a supplement. And I think if you give them something, start with your salt, start with your basic mixed, a generic trace mineral and some salt, and see what they do. And I bet those cows would just dive at it, fight each other for it. So um, you can't necessarily watch what they're eating. You have to watch what the result of what they've eat does and what they're doing in their offspring. So some people will fool themselves into saying, "Oh, we don't have to spend money on any mineral or any supplements of any kind because they're getting everything they need." Because look, they're even utilizing, a nasty greasewood or fill in the blank undesirable plant that they normally wouldn't chew on. So you got to be smart about it. You got to think about what's the cause and effect.
Well, that is nutrition, how we care after our animals, and the importance of it overall on the Hash Knife Ranch. So, with that, we will take this conversation and put it out to pasture.